First of all, thanks to everybody for coming to today's press conference. I just want to start with a couple of thank yous to our staff and the people that are in this room today. Congratulations to all of you. It's been a really hard month's work for a lot of you. We're going through a lot of things, but the staff at this football club have been sensational, and they are one of the reasons we are here today with a great coaching appointment. So thanks to them. I want to thank the selection committee and the work that they did. Simone McInnes, Robert Walls, Jordan Lewis. The selection process was really, really important. Really important to us as a football club and really important to getting the right coach. They did an incredible job. They worked so many hours. We started with 20-odd candidates. It was an incredibly thorough and detailed and fair process that they oversaw independently for the club. So to them, for all of their hard work, I want to say thank you. And I did yesterday, but I wanted to do it publicly because they did an incredible job. This is one of the most exciting days in this football club's history. We get to start with a new coach, start another chapter in what is a long and storied history of a football club. But we are looking forward, and we're looking forward positively, and we're looking forward with great enthusiasm about the next years ahead. I won't speak for too long, and I won't try and sell you on Brad because I don't have to. All I want to say is congratulations, welcome to our football club.
Appreciate it.
And good luck.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate, in particular, the Essendon players out the back there on their break coming in. It's an exciting time for this club. I'm incredibly humbled, but also privileged that went through a very extensive and thorough process, and that the panel and the board of the Essendon Football Club feel that I'm the best fit to lead this football team now and into the future. So really excited, really keen to get to work, and I hope that the players, the club, are as excited as I am to get to work. And we've got a big pre-season ahead of us, but it's one that we're all looking forward to, and I'm as excited as I've ever been to be back in football. We're both happy to take some questions.
Brad, you had one of the best roles, most coveted roles in footy is the AFL footy boss, but obviously the competitive juices as coach were always there. Can you just tell us about that thought process in terms of getting back involved and also telling the AFL?
Yeah, it was a really difficult decision for me, because I made a conscious decision when I went to the AFL that I was going to fully invest in an administration career, and I had 3 great years at the AFL, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I've been at a football club, an AFL football club, my entire AFL life, or adult life, before going to the AFL. And by definition, at a club, you're very narrow in your view, and you're very focused on what you need to do. So the 3 years at the AFL taught me a lot. I learned that there's a massive football ecosystem out there, and I think I come back to the role with a much more rounded approach as to what the football ecosystem is. But ultimately, the AFL is in a terrific position, incredibly well led, impressive organisation, and I love my time there. I particularly love working with Steve Hocking, Andrew Dillon, Gil McLaughlin. They're exceptional people, exceptional leaders, and it gives me great confidence that they're the people coming through the AFL. Our game's in good hands. But ultimately, I love coaching players. I love improving people. I love, talent was part of my portfolio at the AFL, and every time I went out and looked at the talent pathway, I couldn't get away from the fact that that's really what I love doing. I love developing, boys as they are on the talent pathway through their adult life, and that was the most satisfying thing about coaching previously. And ultimately, when it came down to the decision, that's what I love doing.
So did you need to be convinced? There's been a bit going on here. Did you need to be convinced that where the state of the club was and is?
Look, I think the process that I went through was very extensive and rigorous, and there was a lot of, I'm sure, due diligence done on me, and likewise, I had to do my due diligence on the club, and I spent quite a number of weeks doing that. And the first thing I'd say is that there have been some challenges here at Essendon, but there's a lot that the club is doing really, really well, and that'll be my first port of call to make sure that we retain all the great things that already exist within this football program and within this football club. So it wasn't a matter of being convinced. I was impressed from day one. My first initial discussion with Josh Marnie and then with Dave, I think there's massive opportunity here, but that's all it is. It's an opportunity and one I was keen to take on.
Is the challenge of getting a big club that hasn't got to where it sees itself in terms of its standards and competing, is that challenge, big games, big supporter base, all that sort of stuff, does that light the fire for you?
Look, I've admired the Essendon Football Club from afar for a very long time. But the longer you spend in football, the more you realise that you're not entitled to anything, regardless of which club you're at, what opportunities you have. It all comes back to the same thing. It comes back to hard work, discipline, being united, and being really clear on the direction and the role that everyone needs to play. And that's going to be a big challenge here. But that's, if you're not united and you're not going in the same direction, I don't care what players you've got, what facilities you've got, none of that matters.
You'd seen Chris pick up the Premiership Cup victorious on Saturday, influence your decision. I know you guys are close, and it was an incredible achievement.
Yeah, they, in my opinion, got what they deserved on grand final day. But it wouldn't matter whether it was Chris involved or whether it was someone else. You always look at the Premier with with admiration for what they've done, but you're always a little bit jealous at the same time. So that's premierships are outcomes. We're focused on what we need to do to put the program in place to get the outcome.
Who made the first move? Was it you to Essendon or Essendon to you? And can you talk us through that first pitch?
Now, there's, like I imagine all of these processes, the club makes the call. But I'm well aware that I would have been one of dozens and dozens of calls that they made. And as Dave touched on, at the time, and it's just a simple philosophy, I was fully invested in what I was doing. So on a number of occasions I said to Essendon that, if I fully respect if they want to move on with their process, but I cannot commit to entering a process when we're in the middle of a final series and I'm general manager of football at the AFL. I've got a job to do, I'm fully committed to that, and I can't compromise that position. So fortunately for me, they were prepared to wait. And so that didn't mean there wasn't a lot of due diligence going on at the same time, but I entered the process late, but I went through the exact same process as every other candidate.
Right, a lot of passionate Bombers fans trying to get battle weary after some difficult years. What was your message to the board regarding how long it will take to get back into the finals and be competitive from a winning finals perspective, for example?
Yeah, we're not putting any timeframes on any of that. We're just really focused on building the program. I mean, there's only probably one fact when it comes to our list, and that it is young and inexperienced. In terms of capability, I think there's reason for optimism, but all we have is an opportunity to build a program to get the most out of our players, and that's what I love doing, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing. And we won't be drawn into timeframes or any outcome for that matter. What we'll be focused on is building a first-class program that can develop our players to the best of their ability.
Has footy changed in the 4 years since you've last coached?
It always does. It always does. And again, a big part of my portfolio at the AFL was game analysis. So while I haven't been at a football club for the last 3 years, I've probably had a more holistic view of the way the game's played, a unique view as to what I think works and what doesn't, albeit from a lens of trying to make the game more attractive and to make sure that the AFL upholds its role as keeper of the code. And my view is that Steve Hocking did an incredible job at the AFL, and he set the wheels in motion to have the quality of football that was played in 2022. But again, this decision, when I really thought long and hard about it, all of the work we were doing on game analysis, I always had in the back of my mind how I'd approach this from a coaching perspective. So it was always there. It was dormant for a little while, but now it's back, and I couldn't be more excited.
Have you had a chance to meet with or speak to some of the senior players yet?
Yeah, to their credit, they've come back from their break, and I've met quite a number of them. Some are still away, but yeah, that in itself is impressive. You know, the players deserve their break and they need their break, but the fact that they're contacting me and coming in to meet in person has been really impressive.
How involved were you, Brad, how involved will you be with the trade period, which obviously starts on Monday? I know obviously Josh and Adrian have done a lot of work, but it's an important one for the club.
It's always very important, but ultimately the experts will do their job in that space. There's been a trade, the bell doesn't ring for trade period and clubs start talking to each other. So that work has been going on in the background for a long time. So as I always do, I'll play a supporting role, but not a leading one.
Are there any deficiencies in the list that you can see?
Every club's got deficiencies on their list. Now I come in with a really open mind. I can do all the work and analysis on the players and the list that you like, but until you're actually in the building and you're on the track and you're getting to know players and working with them, that you can truly form an informed opinion. So no preconceived ideas on that.
How much better do you think you'll be second time around? How much do you benefit from your time at Arden Street?
Hard to quantify other than to say that experience is really important. And I reflect on my time at North Melbourne as appointed as an untried 33-year-old first-time coach. It was an incredible opportunity, and I always look back on my time there with great fondness. But like all people in this industry, it's about looking forward, not back. And I'll learn from the experiences, and I think I'll be more rounded. But this is all about looking forward for me.
Brad, what do you plan to do with the, obviously a couple of great assistant coaches already, your assistant coaching team? Is there room for one more person to come in there, perhaps one of the guys that missed out on the role, for example?
We'll assess all of that, Tom. It's not about, as I said, I'm genuine when I say that no preconceived ideas. I didn't present a plan to the panel and to the board that here's my team and here's who I'm going to bring in. As I said a number of times, there are some great things happening here. And I think my job is to come in and listen and learn and get an understanding for what works well and what potentially we can improve. But we've got a lot of work to do on that space, but there's no one that I've told the panel or board I would like to bring with me.
Dale, can you talk us through James Hurd's involvement with the process before you selected Brad, and is he someone that you'd like to see involved with Essendon, whether it be as an assistant to Brad or in another role?
I heard he went through the process, and I was glad he did. But he went through exactly the same process as everyone else. It was a completely independent process. Everybody had the same opportunity. That was really important. Hurdy will always be a champion of this football club. But I can't speak for him on whether he wants to get involved or what. That'd be something for him, but he'll always be loved by this footy.
David, have you cast your mind back to the sliding doors moment of missing out on Clarko and how you find yourself here and obviously what's happening with Alistair? Do you have you thought about that in your mind and just rectified how that's all sort of played out in the funny way that it has?
Occasionally, but mainly I sort of made a bit of a rule. I'm not going to talk about other clubs and other players and other things, but I feel for everybody in that process, and I've seen Sonia Hood at a couple of things and feel for her, the position she's in, but I have no regrets what we did. And but I'm sort of going to stay away from talking about other clubs.
Why Brad, though?
He was selected by the committee as the best coach, clearly the best coach. That's what we appointed them to do. Go through a massive process, do the rigour, do the investigation. As a clear decision, I'm very happy to take their advice. Those people were experts, and they did their work.
Dave, what did you make of the support seemingly in sections of the club for James, and you satisfied that that'll sort of calm down now with this great appointment?
Yeah, Essendon supporters are no different to everyone else. I think they will get on board. Everybody. In the end, all our supporters want to win games. They'll get behind Brad for sure. And we'll be a united club. We'll be a strong, united club. And if we can be a strong, united club, we'll be in great shape. And that's where we're going to be. And I think the fans, you can see it already. They respect what we've done, they respect the process and they respect Brad, and they'll be on board.
Brad, from your experience, how long does it take to galvanise a club? Dave talks about it uniting it, and we know that it's been a messy recent months, recent years even. So how difficult is that process to bring together a club as a whole, and how's that task going to be for you?
I think it's really important to articulate that my role is to drive the football program. And that the thing I know with particularly Essendon, but most football clubs, is it's full of passionate people who all want the same thing. Now, they may have different opinions as to how to achieve the outcome, but I'm really strong on I've got a role to play here. I was really impressed with both David and Josh Money in particular talking about a renewed focus on football at Essendon, and that will be my sole focus. Everyone wants the same thing. Dave said members, supporters, they want to see the football team perform, and I want to create a program that enables them to do that.
What sort of footy are we going to see?
Well, we've got some work to do. I mean, the game, again, leading game analysis at the AFL gives a unique insight as to where the game's been, where it is now, and probably where it's going. So I don't have a view on there is one way to play the game. I've been exposed to some great coaches, some great programs, and the only thing that I can say about that is they're all different, and they all have different focus areas. And I don't come in with a preconceived idea as how we should play. I've got a lot of work to do to get to know the players, their strengths. We'll focus on that, and we'll build a program and a style that suits that.
Your brother had a really interesting... Sorry, Chris.
David, you talk about the supporters wanting wins. What do you see as pass mark for next year?
We're at the stage of hard work. We're at the stage of actually putting our heads down and working hard. That's what we're doing, and that's for across the whole club. The board down, all we're focusing on at the moment is hard work, put our heads down, work hard, and get everything on track.
So Brad, your brother had a really interesting conversation about when you was being spoken about as someone who might come back to head coaching. He said, maybe you've got to think about not just the good side, but also the other side and the high pressure nature of the environment. Is that something that you thought about when you were coming back and committing to get back into this role?
Of course. I go in eyes wide open as to the challenges of the role, and I think in any high-profile, important role, there are parts that you love and parts that are really challenging. But I wouldn't have committed to submitting myself to this process and going through the process if in my own mind I hadn't reconciled that this is what I want to do. And this time I'm not an untried, blissfully ignorant 33-year-old. I've been in the industry for a long time in various roles, and I think I've got a pretty good idea of what's required, but also a good understanding of the challenges involved.
Dave, what's the latest in regards to the football review? And I think Brad, as obviously the boss of footy, effectively working with that review now. Like, how does all that work?
The football reviews, the external review is going really well, and will be 2 or 3 weeks' time. Brad has no role in that. The external review's been done by the board and by Ernst & Young, and that'll be delivered in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
And what's the timing on the CEO, and has Andrew Thorburn a potential for that now? He's obviously very highly rated.
Well, Tom, I'm not going to talk about people and process and confidentiality, because you've probably realised I'm not going to do that, just like I did with the coaches process. So there's several people being interviewed. I think within the next week we'll have a CEO.
Brad, what's your proudest achievement in your role at the AFL?
Well, I inherited some really great changes and platform that Steve Hocking created, and others that went before him. So, I'm probably not interested in talking about anything that I did in particular. It's about what the team did, and I learned a hell of a lot from Gil. Really impressive leader, more impressive when you see him go to work on the inside. As impressive as he is externally, he's even more impressive internally. Andrew Dillon's an incredible executive and someone who's taught me a lot in my short time at the AFL. So I'm just really proud of the team in at the AFL and where they have our game positioned as a code. We are in a position of unbelievable strength, and everyone who loves football, I think owes a debt of gratitude to Gil and his team and what they've done.
Is it fair to say, Brad, you'll be a supporter of the goal review post-game?
The goal review is perfect, so no complaints from me.
Is there any obvious replacement to take your chair at the AFL? I know Jimmy Bartell spoke about an interest in it last night. Is it something? Is there anyone in mind?
It's really not for me to suggest to the AFL. They'll run. I know I've been through the process to get that job, and they'll run the same rigorous process and find the right person. But it's certainly not for me to suggest who it might be. The only thing I would say is that what I hope I did bring to the role is a real club feel to the AFL and a club experience, and hopefully I was able to provide some insights into just how hard this game is for people at clubs. Our 18 clubs do an incredible job, but it is a really difficult task. And quite deliberately, we equalise this competition, and the AFL have done an incredible job of that. That makes the fine line between winning and losing, being successful or not, incredibly challenging. And in our competition with 18 teams, there can only be one winner. But 17 clubs, in my view, do a very, very good job. And hopefully I was able to give that insight into what actually takes place at a football club. So whether that's important to the people who make the decision at the AFL, it was certainly valuable for me to have club experience.
Don't you say there's a lot of hard work still ahead? I mean, that's possibly a call for patience still for Essendon fans. I mean, they've been very patient over almost the past 2 decades. So why is today different to the other coaching appointments that have been made over that vast period of time?
Well, we've made a lot of changes. We've got a review going on. We'll have a fully united board. We do have one now. It'll be even stronger. We now have a new coach. We'll have a new CEO. This is a real chance for renewal at this football club, about resetting. This is about the long term too. This is about resetting the culture in this football club for the long term. So it's not so much about next year. For me, this is about how do we reset this club for sustained long-term success? And that's what we haven't had. We've been up and down from the bottom of the ladder, bottom of the 8, bottom of the ladder, bottom of the 8. We are resetting this club for sustained long-term success.
Was the culture broken?
No, the culture, got to be careful with that. As Brad said, there are so many things in this footy club that are really good. It's more of a resetting the way we want to go. We want to reset back on our core business, which is footy. That's what we want to do. We want to go back to being a footy club. And concentrating on footy, concentrating on our members, that's what we want to concentrate on. Like, we've been really successful off the field. And, great credit to all the past board members and to Xavier Campbell, all these people. It was brilliant. And in a lot of ways, I got on the board at the end of the supplements and we were in a lot of financial trouble. That was solved fantastically. But the time now is for change and renewal about football. And that's what this is about. It's about footy, it's about our members, and it's about getting back to doing that.
David, you had one of the greatest coaches of all time on the board, Kevin Sheedy. Why was he not involved in the coaching process?
Because we wanted to have independent people from outside the club. So yeah, Sheeds was in the board meeting yesterday when it was all presented, so he had his say. But it was really important to me that we made independent decisions and really thorough and rigorous independent decisions. So that's why we went for a coaching selection committee that was totally independent, and they would do all the work and then recommend it to the board. So, I think it worked really well. And I want to call out Simone McInnes, to be honest. She made a really big contribution. So, and some people wondered why she was there, but she was impressive.
Obviously, she supported your factional ticket, whatever you want to call it. Dave, will he stay on the board?
Sorry, who's that?
Kevin Sheedy. Will she stay on your board?
Why wouldn't he, Tom?
Well, I'm just asking the question. Obviously, the comments in regards to directing Clarkson towards North were controversial. I'm just asking.
No, Sheeds has been a great supporter of this. Sheeds is a really important part of the board and really important part of this club. And he will fully support, he'll be right behind Brad in this footy club, as he has been for every other coach in the whole of the time at Essendon. So Sheeds is a really important part of the club.
Brad, it's a relatively young playing list. Do you need a few experienced heads, or do you err on the side of empowering younger players to take bigger leadership roles?
Yeah, again, I'm open-minded to that. I think there's potentially an opportunity to look at some experience to to assist what is, as I said, the only fact that you can draw from the list is their age and their experience in terms of games played. So all that says to me that there are opportunities everywhere, and we'll explore every opportunity to get the best out of our players in our list, whether that's bringing in some experience or not. But as I said repeatedly, I didn't come in with preconceived ideas that we need to do this, that and the other thing. I've got a lot of work to do to get to know the players, but also sit down with the experts in terms of draft, trade, free agency strategy, and that work's already largely been done. So my role will be to support that, and clearly I'll be involved in it, but I won't be coming in trying to override anything that's already been done.
So just back to your point on the process, externally, because obviously it was all confidential, it sort of looked like Brad was interviewed yesterday, got the job last night, but obviously it was a lot more rigorous. Could you just explain that, particularly obviously to the supporters that might raise that question?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm really proud of, to be honest, is Josh and I spoke to Brad a couple of weeks ago, probably, I can't remember the exact date, but and not just Brad, a lot of other people, and that stayed confidential. And I'm really proud of that, because sometimes this club, things happen and they're out in the media straight away. So I spoke to a lot of people, like half a dozen. None of it's got out. And I spoke to Brad, Josh spoke to Brad, and then we respected Brad's position, which was he was really clear that he couldn't get involved till after the grand final, and neither could a few other people. So we were waiting to grand final day to see what happened there. So, but I think it was excellent of our club to have kept that quiet, and I think that showed. I hope it showed Brad that we were serious. We weren't a leaking club. We weren't a club that had everything in the media. So it didn't just happen at last minute. And there could have been others that dropped into the process this week as well. Despite
your best efforts, Tom. Sorry about all the missed calls.
David, is it a 4-year deal with Triggers?
It's a 4-year deal with options, yep, but I'm not going to go into that because it's confidential, but yeah, it's a 4-year deal with options. Yep.
Brad, talk about things you've got to do, but I imagine the list is a mile long. What is the first thing you do? How do you approach a thing like this?
Invest time with the people. There's no time to waste on that. So there'll be various stages because players will be on leave and staff with leave and different things like that. But I've just got to invest a lot of time with the people and get a really good understanding for the things they believe are working well and the areas that we can improve and how they think I can help them.
Brad, has any other club approached you about coaching since you left North Melbourne?
I'm not going to go into specific detail, but every club that goes on a coaching search casts the net far and wide.
Brad, how did you reflect when you were from afar on how Ben Rutten exited this club, the messy circumstances surrounding that?
I appreciate the question, but not really for me to comment. The only thing I can say is that it very rarely ends perfectly. By definition, it's a difficult thing to do. So I think everyone, in hindsight, thinks they could do a lot of things better, but it's always a difficult circumstance. And I think that Ben Rutten handled himself extremely well, and he's a quality person. And everyone at Essendon will thank him for the time he invested here and the things that he did.
And do you think the tide has turned in terms of coaches getting, the circumstances around your exit from North were a bit different, but second chances, and would you say lost Rutten yourself now or getting a second go?
I think experience can be underrated, but I think it's really important also for football clubs to have a fresh beginning. I had no intention of moving into a new coaching role immediately. As I said, I fully invested in my role at the AFL, and I made that conscious decision with the strong possibility that once I moved into the AFL and administration, that I would close the door to coaching ever again. And I made that decision with understanding that. So I feel really fortunate that I've had the best of both worlds. I've had great experience at the AFL. I know that I love that role, and I know I love the people there. because, you know, the AFL takes its role as keeper of the code really seriously. But I'm incredibly fortunate to have an opportunity to coach again. And for me, the decision was, you know, do I want to coach again? Once I'd made that decision, I had to be crystal clear that Essendon was the right fit. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have accepted the invitation if it had simply been, if you want to do the job, the job's yours. You know, I had to prove to the panel and to the board that I was the right fit for this football club. And in my view, that's the only way to do it.
What did your family say when you said you were going to take it up, Brad? I mentioned that wasn't congratulating you, but they've seen the stresses before. It's a hard job.
Wouldn't do it without the full commitment and support of them. So fair to say it was a short conversation a month ago, and day by day the conversation got a little bit longer progressively to the point where we're fully invested.
Brisbane Lions premiership side, the coaching fraternity just keeps multiplying. You guys turning into a mafioso to have meetings and just keeps multiplying, you guys.
Well, there is no secret that success breeds success. And, you know, one of the things I'm really looking forward to bringing to this playing group is, you know, to hopefully give some insight into, you know, what strong clubs, what strong programs look like. There are no guarantees. You don't just copy what you've seen work in the past and expect to get the same result. And I know from game analysis, the game changes really quickly. And if you think that you know how to do it and you've got the secret formula, you're going to finish second and beyond. So, but observations of what works, and you know, I'll forever have a debt of gratitude to Lee Matthews and what he taught me as a player and what he taught my teammates and what he did for that club. And it's no surprise to me to see Craig McRae doing what he's doing, Michael Voss, you know, back in his position, and a multitude of people still involved in footy. And that's often what happens from successful eras.